In the midst of the harsh winter storms along Alaska's remote Kodiak Marine Reserve, the rocky coastline is battered by icy waves with only a few calm tide pools remaining. A mature male harbor seal struggles to haul himself onto the slippery rocks, his left front flipper covered with a large, painful red abscess. The swollen, putrid mass makes every movement agony, forcing him to drag his sleek body painfully across the barnacle-encrusted stones. The pain made it difficult for him to dive for fish or navigate the treacherous currents. Unable to maintain his position in the colony, he was gradually pushed away by the other seals. The females and pups who once shared the warmth of the group, now keeping their distance from their struggling companion, leaving him isolated on the outer edges of the rocky outcrop. His dark eyes were dim with exhaustion, his once glossy coat now dull and matted with seaweed, as if suffering from long-suppressed despair. He found a shallow tide pool to rest beside, occasionally lowering his whiskered snout to take small drinks of the brackish water. A cold wind carrying the scent of salt and kelp blew past, wrapping around his large but weakened body. The seal had almost given up hope of rejoining his colony in this harsh marine environment. Suddenly, a black cormorant with a sharp, pointed beak appeared and approached the injured flipper. It was a curious creature, closely observing the red swelling on the seal's massive appendage. The bird moved closer, tilted its head a few times, and then gently touched its beak to the abscess. Suddenly, it pecked firmly, causing the stretched skin to burst and yellow fluid to flow onto the wet rocks. The seal was startled, but quickly found the sharp pain had subsided, bringing some immediate relief. He tried shifting his weight onto the flipper. The pressure lessened, but the pain was still dull. The bird continued to peck a few more times, causing more fluid to escape and relieving the tension. The seal watched with weary gratitude as the bird squawked softly and flew away over the churning waves. That night, the seal rested longer than usual in the protection of the rocks, thinking that he was completely saved. But just a few days later, the wound began to swell and turn an angry red again. The pain spread up the flipper and a foul smell emerged as infected fluid oozed out, making it impossible to swim or haul out normally. The seal could only lie motionless by the tide pool, weakly lapping at the water to survive each day. The pain became so intense that it left him almost immobile for hours. His breathing became labored, each heavy breath creating small clouds in the cold air. Eyes half closed, his great head resting on the barnacle-covered rocks as if trying to fight extreme fatigue. He no longer had the strength to hunt for fish. His once powerful frame grew visibly thinner with each passing day. Occasionally, he would try to lower his head to the tide pool, take a few small laps, then let it rest back on the cold stone. The winter sun provided little warmth on his back, making his condition worse. Steam rose from his body as waves crashed nearby, and seabirds circled overhead, drawn by the scent of infection. Even though he tried to shift position to avoid them, he was still helpless against the persistent scavengers. The tide pool water became increasingly contaminated, leaving only murky, stagnant liquid. He waited silently, as if hoping for a miracle to happen amidst the despair. That miracle came one morning when the pale Arctic sunlight was just breaking through the winter clouds. Two marine biologists, Elena Rodriguez and Marcus Thompson, were conducting their routine survey of pinniped populations in the reserve. From a distance across the rocky shoreline, they saw a massive dark form lying motionless near the water's edge. As they carefully navigated the slippery rocks, they realized it was an adult male harbor seal with a serious injury to his flipper. His tired eyes and heavy breathing showed that he had been suffering for days. Elena knelt down at a safe distance to assess his condition and monitor his respiration rate. Marcus immediately used the satellite phone to call for emergency marine rescue backup. They quickly brought fresh water in containers, maintaining safe distance while observing the seal's dire state. Marcus used bright orange cones to mark the area, preventing other researchers and tourists from approaching and causing additional stress. Elena spoke words of comfort in a gentle, calm voice from a safe distance while they waited for the specialized marine mammal rescue team. From across the water, the sound of a specialized rescue boat's engine echoed, signaling the team was arriving. When the veterinary team arrived, they worked together using specialized DART equipment to safely sedate the massive marine mammal. The seal was carefully secured onto a specially designed stretcher for large pinniped transport. Trying to keep him as comfortable as possible, Marcus monitored the sedated seal's breathing and vital signs during transport back to the Marine Research Station. At the coastal facility, a marine veterinarian was immediately present to conduct a thorough examination. The results showed that the abscess had not damaged the underlying bone structure, but thorough disinfection and intensive monitoring were needed. The medical team irrigated the wound, removed necrotic tissue, and bandaged it carefully with waterproof medical wrapping. Antibiotics and pain medication were administered immediately to help the seal feel more comfortable. He was moved into a large, secure rehabilitation pool with a dry haul-out area covered with soft mats and overhead protection from the elements. A generous portion of fresh fish and a supply of clean, filtered seawater were provided so he could eat and hydrate easily. Throughout the night, staff changed bandages and monitored his temperature frequently to prevent complications, always maintaining proper marine mammal handling protocols when working with the recovering patient. After a few days, the seal's breathing became more regular and his dark eyes showed new alertness. By the third day, the wound began to show signs of healing. The swelling had significantly reduced, and the foul odor had also disappeared. Elena and Marcus smiled as they watched him try to move his flipper slowly, testing his weight distribution. A week later, he was able to slide into the rehabilitation pool and swim short distances, his natural grace beginning to return. Veterinarians increased his fish intake, adding variety to help him regain his strength faster. Every morning, Marcus observed the seal in his secure enclosure as he tested his healing flipper in the filtered sunlight streaming through the facility windows. His coat began to regain its sleek, waterproof quality, and the skin around the wound gradually healed with healthy pink tissue. Every day, his movements grew more confident, no longer favoring the injured flipper. His restlessness increased, a positive sign that his wild instincts were reasserting themselves. After 6 weeks, the wound was completely healed, and there were no signs of infection. His coat had regained its full luster, and his powerful frame radiated renewed strength. It was time to return the marine giant to his ocean home. Elena and Marcus prepared a specialized transport container and carefully guided the mildly sedated seal into the cushioned interior. On the way to his former territory along the coastline, anticipation filled the salty air. The transport container opened on the familiar rocky shore where golden afternoon sunlight danced on the waves. He slid out slowly, testing his fully healed flipper on the familiar wet stones. The sunlight illuminated his restored magnificence, his coat sleek and shining, his powerful frame radiating confidence. He let out a deep, resonant bark that echoed across the coastal waters with the full power and authority of his species. The sound reverberated with primal dominance, declaring that the bull seal had reclaimed his place. Taking each movement steadily toward the water's edge, he left wet prints on the rocky surface. Elena and Marcus stood watching from a respectful distance, eyes full of hope and satisfaction. In their hearts, the joy was not only saving a seal, but preserving the marine ecosystem by returning the apex predator to his rightful place. The seal continued forward, his figure gradually disappearing beneath the waves of Kodiak Marine Reserve. A flock of cormorants flew overhead, as if escorting him back to freedom. In the distance, responding barks echoed back across the water, his former colony recognizing their returned member. The sounds of recognition dispelled the silence of the afternoon. In that moment, he was no longer a struggling outcast, but the rightful inhabitant of his domain once more. Elena and Marcus returned to the research station, carrying with them simple but complete satisfaction. The sun set behind the mountains, leaving behind a brilliant orange and purple glow reflected on the ocean surface. The story of the seal and his cormorant helper will be told forever in the research journals and around the station. And in that wilderness, a marine king found his kingdom again, thanks to the compassion of humans.